Hello, I'm Amy. Welcome back to my channel. I kind of skipped my February wrap up, so I'm going to do February and March for this video, but I'm going to do it a little different because my wrap ups don't typically do the best. Maybe I just don't articulate my reviews very well, or maybe they're just not very exciting, but I thought I would change it up a little bit and see if there's any interest. So before I get into what I'm going to do that's different, I'll just do a really quick recap of what my TBRs were for the month and whether I read them or not, and then we'll get into the reviews and hopefully a little bit of a fun take on it. So for February, we had the best poems of the English language, which I did not read. And then we had a short story collection from Book of the Month, which I did read. Darkest Part of the Forest, which I also read. Letting Go, which I did not finish. And Dead Silence, which I did finish. I also had some hopefuls for February. We had Rings of Fate by Melissa de la Cruz. The Whispering Night by Susan Dennard. Once a Villain by Vanessa Len, and then To All the Boys I've Loved Before by Jenny Han. I did read To All the Boys I've Loved Before, and I did read The Whispering Night for those. And then for March, Immortal Consequences by Ivy Marie. Is that right? Maybe I should double check. Which I did read. Beloved Poison by E.S. Thompson, which I did not finish. The Haunting of Payne's Hollow by Kelly Armstrong, which I finished. Ignite Me, which I did not finish. Spellcaster, I did finish. And Once a Villain, I started, but I did not get that one finished either. So those are all of the books that I had for February and March. And now for hopefully a little bit of a fun take on it. So I'm going to go over to another screen, and I just kind of picked a random bingo card off of Google, so we'll see how it goes. But so we have a free space, and then, okay, so let's go ahead and just start at the top. I have Read a Book with a Beautiful Cover, which I can go ahead and mark off. And this goes well with a prompt that I got for a book that I bought for the cover. And I chose Immortal Consequences by Ivy Marie. This is the last book that I finished. We're following a cast of 6 characters that attend a school in purgatory called Blackwell Academy. And it is a decennial, which means that typically a student is selected out of all of the students that will either get to choose to move on to the other side, or they become one of the magical elites and they stay at the school, kind of like staff. But this year's different, and they're told that multiple students will be chosen, and it will be a competition for who the winner will be for that placement this time. I really enjoyed the characters. August and Emilio are probably my favorite of all of the 6 characters. They each have very different personalities. There are some romantic relationships that are kind of developing. There's longing, there's kind of enemies to lovers. But not everything is as it seems. There's definitely some secrets that all of the characters have, including the staff and the headmaster. But some of those secrets start to unravel and start to come out. So it was an interesting read. It is the beginning of another series. I didn't really want to start another series. I don't know when the next book comes out. I probably will pick it up though. I would say, I'm leaning towards maybe a 3.5 for my rating. Maybe a 4. It was good, but I don't know that I would consider it one of my favorite fantasy reads. But I did enjoy my time with it. So that would be our first one. Book that was published in 2017. I will have to look. Oh, I also I had Deadwater also. I just have the cover because the book is out in another room. I did not finish that one. I have started it. 2017. Let me check. This is probably one of the hardest ones because you have to look at all of the books. Okay, so I cannot mark that one off. Read a book featuring a conspiracy. Dead Silence almost matches that one. If it doesn't fit any other prompts, then I may choose that one. Read something suspenseful. Definitely Payne's Hollow. So this one follows a young woman who her grandfather's just passed away and she's not expecting to inherit anything from him because they've been estranged since her father committed suicide after he was accused of murdering a young boy at their lake house, and her grandfather wills her the lake house, and but with the stipulation that she has to stay there for a month and she's not allowed to leave the property for more than an hour. She has an ankle bracelet on that's monitored by the caretaker, who happens to be the boy's older brother, the boy that died. It's his older brother that's the caretaker, which was also a kind of a plot by the grandfather. Essentially, he wanted her to remember what really happened because he didn't believe that his son actually committed the murder, that it was all a huge misunderstanding and a mistake. And everything seems fine at first. Her aunt insists that she come with her because she doesn't want her to go alone and doesn't think that she needs to go through the trauma of reliving her past because she's the one who found her father burying the body, essentially. But it very quickly turns dark because she hears noises outside at night, and her aunt goes missing. I don't want to go into too much detail because I think it's definitely best going into this one without knowing a whole lot. This one I would definitely give, I'm going to say a 4 for my rating because I really did enjoy it. I liked the main characters. I don't even remember what their names are at this point because it's been a little bit since I read it, and I very quickly forget the names of every character. It's like even while I'm reading it, sometimes I forget what their names are. But that aside, I definitely enjoyed this one. I would recommend it if you like a good spooky time. But yeah, that was A Haunting of Payne's Hollow by Kelly Armstrong. And that one was this one. Read a book on a bestseller list. Okay, yeah, this will work. So, To All the Boys I've Loved Before by Jenny Han. This one is kind of a coming of age, young adult story. Our main character, Lara Jean, she writes letters to the boys that she has crushes on, kind of as a way to purge her feelings for them, and she keeps them in this hot box that her mother gave her before she passed away. And her older sister is going away to college overseas, and that hat box goes missing. And it turns out that all of her letters, because apparently she addressed them, she actually put them in envelopes and put the addresses on them, but they got mailed out to her crushes, and it deals with all of the aftermath that it was adapted to a film, which I watched quite a while before I read the book. This was actually part of a random book subscription box that I used to subscribe to. It's not usually my typical genre of choice to read, but it was kind of fun, and it is part of a series. I don't know that I'll continue it, but it was worth reading once. I'd probably give it a 3. Is this one? And then read a book with a one-word title. Ah, I can do that one too. I'm doing good. Maybe. I don't know that I'll get a bingo, but next we have, oh, is it? No, that's not. Never mind. I think that's actually 2 words. Or is it? On the cover, it's 2 words. On the side, it's 1. Read a book that won at least 1 award. Don't know that I have any of those. I don't think so. I also have to remember that I have an ebook on my list too. It was Dirty Little Secrets by Liliana Hart. So I've got to remember that. Read a YA novel. Okay. So for read a YA novel, I'm going to pick The Darkest Part of the Forest by Holly Black. In this one, we have a few main characters, but I would say there's a brother and a sister that are probably the primary main characters, and they live in a town that is surrounded by a forest that is inhabited by fae, and they're, in true Holly Black fashion, they are tricksters. Essentially, the fae aren't nice to humans. And usually tourists are the ones who pay the price because there's kind of a pact between the townspeople and the fae that the fae won't bother the actual local residents. But the main feature is that there is a glass coffin in the middle of the forest with a fae prince inside, and he's been there for as long as anybody can remember. But one day the coffin is empty and it's broken, and it sets off an entire chain of events that put the entire town into chaos, essentially. But I did enjoy the characters. I enjoyed the story and even some of the romance that's in it, particularly the main character and her love interest. I really enjoyed. I think I liked Cruel Prince more, but it was interesting and it was definitely unique. I'd probably give it, I'd say maybe a 3.5 because I enjoyed it more than some of the others. So that is The Dark Part of the Forest by Holly Black. Now let's see what else we've got. Read a book set outside of Earth. Ah, I can do this one too. Not that one. I can do Dead Silence by S.A. Barnes. In this one, we're following a crew. They, they're like telecommunications maintenance. So they go out and like update satellites in space, kind of a thing. But they're on their last voyage, I guess you'd want to call it, before the entire program is shut down because everything is going automated and they're no longer needed. And the team lead on their crew is upset about this because she wants to stay in space and her past trauma, and they get a distress signal partly because the equipment they just upgraded now has a wider range, so they're able to pick up the signal. And she talks her crew into going and checking it out, saying that, hey, we can't ignore it if it's real. At least one of the other crew members is adamant that they shouldn't because it's probably just a ghost signal, that it's not even relevant anymore. But they go ahead and they follow the signal. It's out of their way and it could potentially keep them from meeting with the rendezvous for them to be picked up. When they get there, they actually discover that there is a ship there that's been missing for 20 years, and they decide to board it because, one, if it's the ship that they think it is, they could be very, very rich just from finding it, much less what could possibly be on board, even though most of them are pretty adamant that they don't want to loot it because it's like robbing a grave, because it's pretty much guaranteed that everybody on board passed away. So they decide to board this ship, and things are a little bit strange. And I really enjoyed it. I know a lot of people don't like it, and they think that the main character is really whiny and annoying, but I was really intrigued by her history, and I didn't think it was that off the wall for her to be as like hung up on her past as she was. I thought it was fairly realistic. I mean, I could be wrong, but it didn't bother me at all. And discovering the mysteries of what happened to cause the ship to be out in the middle of nowhere, completely off course, and all of its occupants died in a very mysterious way. So I think I wouldn't give it a 5, but I think I would give it a 4. I know a lot of people really don't like this book, but it's like Titanic in space is kind of the way I would put it. But there's ghosts and mysteries. I liked some of the characters. So yeah, I'd say probably a 4 for this one. And then let's see, read a classic you've never read. Nope, that one doesn't fit. I don't know what an ECPL staff pick would be. Read a debut novel. Nope, not those. Read a book with a mystery. Whispering Night kind of fits that because there is a mystery mixed in with the plot line. Read a book set in the past. No. Read a memoir or biography. No. Read a retelling of a folk or fairy tale. Also no. Book of poetry. Too bad I didn't finish the English literature poetry one. Read a book with a name in the title. No. Read a book from the year you were born. That doesn't fit. Book with a noun as the title. Person, place, or thing. Well, spellcaster's a person, right? Book about the outdoors. I might push it and do Whispering Night for that one. It's in the title, no. In a banned book, I don't know that any of these are banned. Oh, I also had a mystery. Okay, so I'm gonna do this one for Spellcaster by Jamie and Eve. Fantasy. We are following a girl who the synopsis says she comes into her powers late. But reading it, it doesn't seem like that's the case. It's more that when her power awakens, she doesn't know how to use it. She can't access it. But she's accepted into a school that her entire family, all of her siblings go to. Her dad is a faculty member there, and there is a student that transfers in, and his dad has a blood oath against her dad because something happened in the past that caused his wife's death. So her father is very upset about this other student attending the school and tries to talk her out of going to school at all. And there are several instances where she almost dies. So of course that doesn't make good on her case to stay at the school very much, but she does manage to stay. I do like how the story progresses for you figuring out kind of why the things are happening to her that are. It is another first book in a series, but Jamie and Eve's writing is really fun. I really enjoyed my time with this. It's not the best fantasy book out there for sure, and some of the character relationships develop in interesting ways, put it that way, but I did really enjoy my time with it. I'd say just based on that, I'd give it a 4 because it was a really fun read. I really enjoyed it. I liked the main character, I liked the love interest, and I liked her 2 sisters and 2 brothers. I don't want to spoil anything, so I think that's all I'm gonna say, but I did really enjoy this. And then I'm gonna do Outdoors for Whispering Night by Susan Dennard. This one is the 3rd book in the series, so I don't want to go too much into it. The first book is The Luminaries, and we follow our main character whose dad disappeared shortly after he was accused of basically being a witch. They have a different name for them. They're called Dianas. So there's different families within the community like there's the Mondays and the Wednesdays and the Fridays, and each of those families have a different role that they play in the community. The Fridays, I think, are kind of like the police officers, the enforcers. I actually don't remember what all the different roles are. But yeah, each family has a different role in the community. But our main character's dad was accused of being this Diana and went missing, and she and her mother and brother were all ostracized and were not allowed to be part of the Luminaries, who protect the town from this forest that has a sleeping spirit in it. Their dreams create nightmares that come out every night, and the Luminaries are tasked with killing any of those monsters that kind of get out of hand, that come across the boundary forest towards the town, and collecting the bodies of those monsters in the morning when everything kind of goes back to sleep. She really wants to be part of the Luminaries again, and she is training to do, they have different trials for the characters to be inducted into these. I think there's a specific name for the group that she wants to be a part of. Basically patrol the forest and keep the town safe. And she manages to become a part of those trials, but also trying to figure out what happened to her dad, if there are Dianas actually in the town, if they're manipulating things, and if they are, what their goal is. And she's been estranged from her two best friends since she was ostracized. She's slowly starting to build relationships with them again. Her name is Winnie. I do remember that much. And her best friend's name is Jay, and he is a member in a band. And I don't remember the other girl's name. As I said, I'm terrible with names. They all kind of start working together again to solve these mysteries. And it was a good conclusion, I thought. I enjoyed it. I would probably still only give it a 4. There's a little bit of romance, which I enjoyed. I enjoyed the mystery element, of course. That's usually my favorite part of a book. So there's that. But that is The Whispering Night by Susan Dennard. And then I'm going to read a book with a mystery. And that one is going to be my ebook that I read, which was Dirty Little Secrets by Lillian Hart. I would describe as a Harlequin novel, honestly. We're following a mortician. She's both the town coroner and one of the 2 morticians in town. She inherited a mortuary from her parents when they passed away. She went to school to be a medical doctor, so that's how she becomes the coroner. But there is a murder in their little town called Bloody Mary. I don't know if it's an actual town or if that's just a fictional town name. I didn't even look that up. But there is a writer that's come to town that is wanting to integrate himself into the investigation of the case to be able to include what he learns in his books, because he writes murder mysteries. The part that makes it a Harlequin novel is she and the writer become close really, really, really fast. Like, ridiculously fast. I really enjoy her relationship with the town sheriff, who has been one of her best friends for her whole life, essentially. And that relationship, I really hope turns into a friends to lovers, because I really like their dynamic. And it's fun to read about them more than anything else in the book. I mean, there was a mystery, and that's usually my favorite part of the book, but it was kind of not mundane because it's murders, but let me put it this way. When you actually find out who the culprit is, it's kind of frustrating because I don't think the author really left any good hints so that you would be able to solve it by the end. So the mystery part of it I didn't necessarily enjoy, but I did really enjoy the dynamic between her and the sheriff. So if I did continue in the series, because of course it's a series, I would only continue it to find out what happens between them. And I actually have read a little bit of the second book. It doesn't start out the way I want it to, with them anyway, but that's neither here nor there. But that was Dirty Little Secrets by Liliana Hart. And I'll put a graphic up for that one. So that would be a book with a mystery. And then I wish they had short story collection in there, because this doesn't really fit any of the bingos. I didn't get a bingo. I'm really close. If it was a retelling of a folk or fairy tale, maybe I should have done that for The Darkest Part of this Forest. Except that wasn't really a retelling, so it doesn't truly match, but I was close. I almost got it. But I'm discovering that the Book of the Month short story collections have some very strange stories in them. As far as the way they're written and I guess the skill of the authors, I would probably give it a 3 for enjoyment. I might give it a 2 because it's not really my cup of tea. And I definitely can't say that I enjoyed it more than I did any of the 3s on my list. Just to kind of give you an idea, there is Poking Holes by Juan Valencia? Poking Holes by Juan Valencia. This story I wish I had read. It lives rent-free in my brain and it should really be paying rent because it was disturbing. And then we have Deep Hollow Close by Lynn Schmidler. Hopefully that I'm pronouncing that right. A wife finds an earring in the back of their car when she's cleaning it out. She's basically she's not a stay-at-home mom, she's a stay-at-home writer, but she has got this idea in her head when she finds this earring that her husband is having an affair with their neighbor. So she decides that she's going to keep an eye out for her and figure out and prove that they're having an affair, and she kind of becomes obsessed with it. Very strange things happen. She even sneaks into her neighbor's house while she's gone. Yeah, very strange and kind of unsettling. So yeah, all of the stories in these that I've read so far have been very strange. Not typically my cup of tea. I will probably read the rest of them, but when I'm done, I probably won't keep them. But I think that just about does it for my wrap up. Hopefully you enjoyed this kind of new take on a reading wrap up. I haven't We'll see if I do it again. I'll probably need a new bingo card for next time, and I don't know how well it'll work if I only have 5 books. So maybe I'll have to do a wrap up every couple of months or every 3 months so that I have enough books to really make a shot at it and try and do another random one. It was kind of hard to find random ones, so maybe if you have some suggestions to go on a bingo card, maybe I will fill one out based on comments and see if I can hit any of those for any of my wrap-ups. But yeah, that's all I read in February and March. Hope you enjoyed. Let me know what you read. See if you read any of these and what you thought of them, what your opinions are. And I forgot to even say what the reward is going to be if I get a bingo. So if I do get a bingo, if I continue this, then I think what I'm going to do is getting a bingo will earn me a mood read for the next TBR game. Or maybe I'll alternate where if I get a bingo, I can either add a mood read or I can remove a book that I am not as interested in reading off of my TBR. But I think that's what I'm going to do. I forgot to mention that earlier, so I thought I would go ahead and insert it here. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye!